Richard Siba, or the murderer of Marek Rosiak, a law and justice activist from Łódź, is no longer in prison. The man who was sentenced to life imprisonment has left the penitentiary due to a suspension of executive proceedings. Life imprisonment, as the name suggests, should last for the rest of the convict's life. However, this has not happened in the case of Richard Siba, the man who murdered law and justice activist Marek Rosiak in cold blood in 2010. And this TV channel has learned the murderer, who was sentenced to life imprisonment, has been released from prison and paid more than 6,500 zloty from his deposit. On the 18th of March 2025, he was released from the Czarny Penitentiary for the following reason: suspension of executive proceedings. The man, because of homelessness from the penitentiary, was placed in a nursing home. Mr. Richard Siba did not stay out of control for even one moment. This is very interesting, because as TV Republica found out, the very next day, Richard Siba assaulted another man living in this facility. The Polish Ministry of Justice today claims it was a homeless shelter. According to our informants, the police were initially reluctant to intervene. Eventually, the man was taken to a mental health ward in a hospital in Częstochowa. The court wrote clearly it is about care and nursing because Mr. Siba was unable to perform basic activities for himself. The court explains its decision to release the murderer on humanitarian grounds. On the 11th of March 2025, Mr. Siba was not released, but formal release orders were issued so that he could leave the prison and was transported to a nursing home with jurisdiction over his place of residence. From there, in view of the exacerbation of his condition, he was transported to a psychiatric hospital. The Justice Department has repeatedly stressed that Richard Siba is in a deplorable condition. If we have an unequivocal opinion from experts that this person without medical assistance is in a life-threatening condition, that this person has no consciousness of serving his sentence, he is incapable of serving his sentence, and he is not promising improvement, that means that he should be put under treatment. There is a certain inconsistency here. On the one hand, the words and opinion of experts about the necessary help for the murderer, and on the other hand, the certificate of release from prison, which our editorial board has seen. It reads, "During the stay, he was in a stable condition and did not require emergency interventions, discharged in general good condition." The verdict that normalized hurling insults at Polish President Andrzej Duda. Now, in the case of Richard Siba, the prosecutor's office, led by Adam Bodnar, has not filed a complaint. It is shocking that the court decided to move Richard Siba to a nursing home rather than to a hospital in the first place. According to lawyers, this decision is part of a series of controversial actions in recent months, which makes it possible to ask whether this is not a political power play. Aren't we dealing with a further deliberate element of destabilization of the judiciary, which is not just this issue of oversight, but a deliberate action, not really hitting the opposition parties, and parliamentarism? The release from prison of the only man in the history of the Third Republic of Poland convicted of political murder, and this while still in the midst of an election campaign, carries disturbing connotations. Let's hope it's not encouragement to other hate-sick people. A political earthquake. French newspapers are ablaze after a court barred Marine Le Pen from running in the 2027 French presidential election. According to Le Pen, the judges used methods typical of totalitarian regimes. With this decision, the court told me directly, we will block your participation in the elections. We will take away your right to be a president elected by the people. If this is not a political decision, then tell me, what is? Crucially, Marine Le Pen was the clear leader in the pre-election polls. Among other things, she spoke loudly about how great of a threat mass immigration is to France. Illegal immigrants have turned the lives of residents of many citizen towns into hell. Murders, rapes, violent attacks, looted stores, torched cars and crashed streets are the daily reality that helpless people are forced to face.
Quand on fait de la politique,
if you're a politician, you can't be above the law, but you also can't be unlawfully attacked. And today, millions of French people feel that Marine Le Pen has been the victim of brutal personal attacks just because she had a chance to run the country. They will stop at nothing to stop us. 4 years in prison, 2 of which are suspended, and a 5-year ban on holding public office is the sentence for Le Pen, allegedly for embezzling European Union funds. Many French people of various political views are outraged by this verdict. This has gone too far. Depriving a candidate of the opportunity to run for election is also a blow to us, the voters. It takes away our right to express our views. She's not the only one who has struggled with the allegations of financial irregularities. Others have too, and no one else has had a hair fall from their head. Case in point, Marine Le Pen found herself targeted not only by political opponents, but also by judges. It is known that this corrupt system existed. It is also known that other French parties participated in it, and that includes the party of the current Prime Minister and also the party of the leftist leader, Jean-Luc Mélenchon. They too are steeped in this affair. But only the right-wing candidate, who threatened the French establishment's grip on power, was punished. Therefore, these unprecedented and, in the opinion of many, unlawful actions are being monitored worriedly by the new United States administration.
That's a big deal. That's a very big deal. I know all about it, and a lot of people thought she wasn't going to be convicted of anything, and I don't know if it means conviction, but she was banned for running for 5 years, and she's the leading candidate. That sounds like this country. That sounds very much like this country.
The Democrats in America tried to leverage similar tactics against Donald Trump leading up to the 2024 presidential election.
Talk about democratic values, we must live them. Exclusion of people from the political process is particularly concerning, given the aggressive and corrupt lawfare waged against President Trump here in the United States. We support the right of everyone to offer their views in the public square, agree or disagree.
In America, this lawfare did not succeed, but in Europe, it seems to have. A Romanian court first invalidated the results of the presidential election and later blocked the candidacy of first-round winner and leader of the right-wing, Călin Georgescu. Now, a similar maneuver has been applied to an anti-establishment candidate in France. These are Bolshevik, Soviet methods which are carried out experimentally, both in Europe and in the United States. Marine Le Pen is not about to give up. She wants to fight to overturn what she believes is an illegal court decision.
Les électeurs qui, dans une démocratie...
In a democracy, the most important opinion belongs to the voters. And it is to them that I want to say, don't worry, they will not stop me. This sense of injustice will carry me even further in this battle. This weekend, protests are to take place all over France. Not just supporters of Marine Le Pen, but everyone who still cares about freedom of speech and democracy in their country.
The magnitude 7.7 earthquake was the strongest to hit the Asian country in over a century. Both historic buildings, makeshift homes in favelas, and modern buildings have collapsed. Most of the missing are presumed dead. There is little chance that they are alive, as more than 72 hours have passed. When I visited the damaged areas, I saw that the buildings were built cheaply, without considering the risk of tremors. Those guilty of negligence will be held accountable. The epicenter of the quake was near Mandalay, the country's second-largest city. Most buildings were damaged to varying degrees. Fearing aftershocks, the injured are lying on beds in an open area in front of a hospital. Mandalay is still experiencing power outages and a sewage system failure. Residents are also facing acute shortages of food, drinking water, and medicine. The victims were mostly civilians, but there were also government officials, volunteers, and also Buddhists who were meditating at the time, as well as school and temple workers. Many suffered broken limbs, spines, and serious head injuries. My ribs and back hurt, and my sister has broken arms. My niece did not survive. She was the only child in our family. Daytime temperatures in Mandalay can exceed 40 degrees Celsius. The smothering heat and lack of heavy rescue equipment and professional rescue teams are delaying search and rescue operations.
Teams of search and rescue experts are working to find people trapped in the rubble. And the critical window for search, as I said, is really narrow now, because we are now 72 2 hours after the earthquake.
The most immediate and important need is water. It is super, super hot out there, and communities don't have access to running water and they don't have access to drinking water. So we have to get water out to communities. And as Nadia said, it's not just one time. We need to be providing water that will last those households a couple of days.
The most urgent requirement is to deploy shelter and relief items to the affected areas. It is also essential to monitor risks around explosive ordnance.
Rescuers, both foreign and domestic, are racing against time to save as many lives as possible. But the chances of getting survivors out from under the rubble are diminishing by the hour. The race against time is also on in Bangkok, 1,000 kilometers away, where a skyscraper under construction has collapsed. Dozens of people still remain under the rubble. At the moment, there are no signs of life. We are only retrieving bodies. But we are not losing hope. The rescue operation is still going on. And even though we are already on the 4th day, maybe they can survive for a week or 2 weeks. So we have to keep going. Around a dozen remain under the rubble.
The Prime Minister.
Earlier today, Poland and Sweden launched a joint air policing mission in the city of Malbork, Poland. The inauguration ceremony was attended by the Polish Minister of Defense, Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz, along with his Swedish and British counterparts. Kosiniak-Kamysz confirmed the arrival of 6 JAS-39 Gripen jets and 6 Eurofighter Typhoon aircraft in Poland, emphasizing that the protection of Polish airspace and that of the Baltic countries is an allied obligation. Today, an allied operation begins in Malbork, and in fact in all of Poland and the countries bordering the Baltic Sea, in which Swedish and British soldiers will take part, and their best planes will take part. There will be Gripens. 6 Gripens are already here in Malbork, and 6 Typhoons. 6 Swedish Gripens, 6 British Typhoons. Almost 300 soldiers from our allies are already stationed and will be stationed in Poland in the near future. Protection of Polish airspace, protection of the Baltic countries is our allied obligation, which our friends are fulfilling. Sweden, a NATO member, has extended its participation in NATO air policing missions beyond its own territory, deploying its combat aircraft to Poland for the first time.
Our 3 countries, Sweden, Poland and United Kingdom, shall have a unity of mission and a unity of purpose. We share our reading when it comes to making sure that Russia can't be aggressive. We share the importance of having a strong transatlantic link and of keeping NATO strong. So there's a strong unity of purpose between our 2 countries.
Vernon Coker, the UK Minister of State in the Ministry of Defence, underscored the significance of safeguarding Europe from potential aggression through NATO. He warned that the increased risk would come from not doing anything.
As friends and allies from 3 corners of the European continent, with one clear message: Europe is stepping up for European security, and we stand united as proof.
It's not just words. There are Gripen aircraft from Sweden here at a Polish airbase. There are Typhoons from the UK here at a Polish airbase. There's a joint air policing mission on behalf of NATO, not as an aggressive move, but as a defensive move to say we will stand together in Europe through NATO to defend our freedom and defend our democracies.
NATO air policing is a peacetime collective defense mission dedicated to maintaining the security of Allied skies.